Hi everyone, welcome to Sweetpea Seeds Inspirations. My name is Sydney and today we are going to be working on the Filled Full of Flowers Tunisian Crochet Cowl. This is one size fits all, and when I say that, you can use this for your toddler child or you can even wear it as an adult. Also, if you would like to make this a little bit smaller, then you can manipulate the chains that I'm going to give you the multiple here in a little bit of how many you would like, whether you would like to make it bigger or even smaller as well. So in today's cowl, we are going to be using two different stitches, and the first stitch that we are going to be using down here for our edges, we are going to be using the full stitch. Now in the center that you see here, we are going to be using the Alpine, or also known as the filled stitch. That is a 2-row repeat. Now with my repeat rows, I do not count the return pass for a row repeat. So how I count my row repeats is the forward pass only. I do not count the return pass. So with that being said, this is going to be a 2-row repeat. For the Alpine stitch, you will need to know how to do a double crochet Tunisian style. If you do not know how to do that, then I will show you in this video, along with how to do the simple stitch and also the full stitch that we use in this cowl. Real quick, let's go over a few things that we are going to need for this cowl. So the most important thing is going to be our yarn. Now, if you would like to stripe this like I did, that is perfectly fine. Or if you would like to just leave it as one whole single solid color, that is fine as well. But if you are going to stripe it, you will need two different colors. I am using Big Twist in the color Little Rose that I have received from Joann's, and also another Big Twist that is in the color Purple. These are both a 4-weight yarn, so you can use any kind of yarn as long as it is a 4-weight. Now the crochet hook that you are going to need is an 8mm hook. Now I do not do gauge swatches, but with Tunisian, you do kind of want to use a bigger size hook because sometimes it is hard to get into them stitches, and doing the return pass does play a little bit with our tension. And you will need a cable style crochet hook instead of a double-sided, because we are going to be working this as a flat instead of the round. So this is a fairly easy pattern, and it connects at the back here. If you would like to do it in the round, that is perfectly fine too. You will just need to know how to actually work in the round with Tunisian crocheting, which I do not show in this tutorial. Now, during this tutorial, you will see me working on a smaller swatch, so I don't have to make another cowl. But here in a minute, I will be giving you the number of how many chains you need to work up, and also the multiple if you would like to make it bigger or even smaller. So other than the yarn and the Tunisian hook, you will just need a darning tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and start working on this cowl. Once you have gotten all of your chains accounted for, we are now going to start working on our setup, forward, and return pass. So you should have either 81 chains or a multiple of 2 plus 1. Now this loop that is on our hook, that is going to count as a stitch. So we are not working in this first chain, but we will work in the second chain. And what I like to do for my setup is kind of turn my chain stitches to the back, and we are going to work in this back bump here, or if you were to look at it, it's the middle of these 3 strings here. So we're going to work in this back bump, and we are going to just draw up a loop. So you want to making sure you're not pulling that loop through that second loop on your hook. We are just drawing up loops and adding them to our hook. So go ahead and do that. This is our setup for our project. This is the forward pass. So we are just going to go into that back bump and draw up a loop. So continue repeating that until you have gotten every single one of your chains worked into, and then I will meet you for the return pass. Before doing your return pass, you want to making sure you have the same amount of loops here on your hook as you chained up. So once you have gotten your numbers situated and you're ready for your return pass, we are doing a very basic return pass, which is we will chain 1. So we're going to yarn over and pull through 1 loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over again and pull through 2. And you'll go ahead and yarn over and pull through 2 all the way up until you get to the very last stitch, or 1 stitch left on your hook. What we just did was set up our project, so now we can start working the stitches that we need. So we are actually going to do 2 rows of full stitches, and I'll show you how to do full stitches. And I just want to remind you that the return passes are not going to count as a row. So how I count my rows are the forward passes only. So let's go ahead and start on the full stitch. The loop that is on our hook, again, that is always going to count as the first stitch. So this space right here, we are not going to work into. And actually, we are not going to be working in these stitches either. We're going to be working in between. So here is the first stitch, and here is the second stitch. And this gap right here where my finger is, that is where we are going to work. So we are going to go into that space, and we are just going to draw up a loop. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. Again, we're not working into that stitch or the second stitch, we are working right in between them, and we're going to put our hook in there and just draw up a loop. So that is the full stitch. One more time. We're not working into the stitch or the second stitch, we are working in between them where my finger is, and you'll just insert your hook and pull up a loop. So go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end of this row. And then we will start on the return pass. So once you have made it to the end of your row, you will insert your last stitch in that last gap, and then your last stitch is going to be in that chain 1 space that we made when we did the return pass. You want to make sure you grab both of those loops. So here is the chain 1 for the return pass that we did. I'm inserting my hook, making sure I'm grabbing those 2 loops, and I'm going to go ahead and draw up a loop. And that is going to be your last stitch. You just want to make sure that how many ever stitches that you started off with when you chained up, you still have that many stitches or loops on your hook. So now to do the return pass, which again is just basic and it's going to stay the same throughout this pattern, we're going to go ahead and chain 1. So go ahead and yarn over and pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you'll continue repeating that until you have made it to the end where you will only have 1 loop left on your hook. Now we are going to do one more forward pass for the full stitch. So again, this first loop or this loop on your hook is always going to count as the very first stitch. So we will not work into the space. We'll go into the next space. So this stitch right here, we are not working into. We're working in between them stitches. So go ahead and insert your hook and draw up a loop. Again, go to the next space that is between the two stitches, insert your hook and draw up a loop. One more time into the next space in between the stitches, insert your hook and draw up a loop. Go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end of your row, and you can go ahead and grab your color A choice of yarn, and that is where we will go ahead and switch our yarn colors. Once you have made it to the end of this row, again, your last full stitch should be in that last gap, and your very last stitch is going to be in that chain one space that we made when we did our return pass. And we are actually going to go ahead and switch our colors. So how I switch my colors in Tunisian is I will actually insert my hook in that chain one space, grabbing both of those loops, and I'm going to go ahead and take my primary color or your secondary color, whichever, and I'm going to go ahead and draw up a loop. Sometimes if you would like to make it a little bit easier, you can go ahead and tie off onto your secondary or primary color, which that's typically what I do, but for whatever reason, I'm not doing it that way this time. So I have done switched over my color. I'm going to go ahead and tie this off real quick to my other strand of yarn. And now we will go ahead and do the return pass. You want to make sure that you are getting your primary or secondary color, and we'll do our return pass. So we are going to go ahead and chain one, so yarn over and pull through one loop, and then now we're going to yarn over and pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, all the way until you have made it to there is only one loop left on your hook. Now that you have completed your return pass, now we need to do 2 forward passes of the simple stitch. So again, this first loop or this loop on your hook always counts as the very first stitch. So we will be skipping this edge stitch here and go to the next stitch, and you'll see that there is 2 loops here. We're going to pick up that first loop, and then we are going to yarn over and draw up a loop. And that is how we do a Tunisian simple stitch. So we're going to go to the next stitch here, grab that loop, that front loop, and draw up a loop by yarning over and pull through. So the next stitch, go ahead and pick up that loop, yarn over and draw up a loop. So you'll go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end, and we are going to switch our colors again. So one more time, go ahead and pick up that loop, that front loop, yarn over and draw up a loop. Now that you have made it to the end and you're wanting to change your color, you're going to go ahead and insert your hook into that last stitch, which is the chain one space of the return pass, And we're going to go ahead and change our color. So my working strand of yarn right now is the purple, where I just did my forward pass. And my color that I'm wanting to change to is the pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my current working strand of yarn, which is again the purple. I'm going to cross that over front of the pink here and then cross it back to where it makes a somewhat of a knot and it catches that pink. So you should have something that looks similar to this. And once you have attached your yarn to the color that you're wanting to change, you're going to go ahead and yarn over and pull through that chain 1 space. Go ahead and do our return pass. So we'll go ahead and chain 1. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull. Yarn over and pull through 2. Again, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 until you have 1 loop left on your hook. Now we need to do 1 more row of our forward pass for the simple stitch. So again, this first loop on your hook always counts as a stitch, so we will not be working on this edge stitch here. We'll go into the next stitch, grab that front loop, yarn over and draw up a loop. Go into the next stitch, pick up that front loop, yarn over and draw up a loop. 1 more time, go into pick up that front loop, yarn over and draw up a loop. Go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the very last stitch, and we will change our yarn again. I'm going to change my color again once I have made it to the end of this row, inserting my hook into the last stitch, which is the chain 1. I'm going to take my current working yarn, which is the pink. I'm going to cross it over top of the purple, and then I'm going to cross it under to now where I have catched my yarn. And with the purple, I'm going to yarn over and draw up a loop. So now the return pass, we are going to chain 1. So yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2, all the way until I have only 1 loop left on my hook. Now we are going to work on the filled, or also known as the Alpine stitch. And this is going to be a 2-row forward pass repeat. And we are going to be alternating between the simple stitch and the Tunisian double crochet stitch. So the way I actually designed this cowl is it color codes. When we go to do the double crochet, and you'll see that here in a minute, we have to go 2 rows below. So where I'm working with this purple yarn right now, going 2 rows below, I will be working in the purple as well. So let's go ahead and start the filled, or also known as the Alpine stitch. So of course, as always, this very first stitch here counts as, or this first loop on our hook always counts as a stitch, so we will not be working in these side stitches here. We're going to go ahead and yarn over and do a Tunisian double crochet. So yarn over, again, we're going to go 2 rows down. So this pink one for me counts as 1, and I'm going to go down to this purple, so 2 rows below. I'm going to grab that stitch as if it was a simple stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. And then now we're going to do a simple stitch, so we're going to go back up to the pink and make a simple stitch. Go ahead and yarn over and do a double crochet 2 rows below. So I'm going to go ahead and grab what is my purple loop, make similar to a simple stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. Go to the next stitch, make a simple stitch, which is my pink, and then now I'm going to do my double crochet 2 rows below. So I'm going to go into my purple loop, grab that loop, yarn over, draw up, and pull through 2. Do that with you one more time. So I'm going to make a simple stitch into my pink. Go ahead and yarn over. I'm going to go 2 rows below, and you want to make sure that you're not working into this that's right under that simple stitch. You want to make sure that you are skipping one in between. So I'm going to go into my purple loop here and place my double crochet. So go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end. I'm going to finish off this row real quick. So one more time, I'm going to make a simple stitch, yarn over, go 2 rows below, and make a double crochet. Now we are going to work on the second row repeat for our forward passes, and we are going to alternate now between the simple stitch and the double crochet again. But you want to make sure that your double crochets are not stacking upon each other. So the simple stitch is always going to be above this double crochet from the previous forward pass, and then the double crochets are going to be in between the 2 double crochets from the previous row. So this first loop always counts as our first stitch, so we will not work into these side stitches here. We'll go into the next stitch and we are going to place a simple stitch. So go ahead and pick up that loop, yarn over, and draw up a loop. Now we're going to do a double crochet. So go ahead and yarn over. We're going to skip this double crochet from the previous row, and we're going to go 2 rows down. So 1 and 2, I'll be working in this loop here, which again color coordinates with the working yarn that I'm currently using. So I'm going to go 2 rows down, 1 and 2. I'm going to pick up that loop. I'm going to go ahead and yarn over, draw up a loop, and I'm going to pull through 2. So that gives you a knot there. And now you should be over top of the next double crochet from the previous row, and we are going to place a simple stitch over top of that double crochet. Then go ahead and yarn over. We're going to go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2. I'm going to pick up that front loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. Again, one more time, I'm going to go 2 rows up, which is going to be on top of that double crochet. I'm going to place a simple stitch, so pick up that front loop, yarn over, and draw up a loop. And now we're going to go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2, skipping the double crochet from the previous row, so 1 and 2, yarn over, pick up that loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. So we're going to go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end. So next will be a simple stitch. So we're going to draw up that, or pick up that loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, skip that double crochet, go 2 rows below, pick up that front loop, 2 rows down, yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. So go ahead and continue repeating that for the remaining of this row, and then I will meet you for the end. So once you have gotten to the end, I'm going to go into that chain 1 space and I'm going to switch my yarn. So again, to switch your yarn, I'm taking my working strand. I'm going to cross it over top of the color that I'm going to change to, and then cross it under. Then I'm going to take the working yarn that I want to switch to, yarn over, and draw up a loop. So now you should have something that looks similar to this. So you'll have, for the row that we just did, we started off with the simple stitch, double crochet, simple stitch, double crochet. So we are going to do our return pass, which again is a chain 1, and then we'll yarn over and pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, all the way until you get to 1 loop left on your hook. I'm going to work the first row repeat with you again once more. So the first loop on our hook, again, that counts as our first stitch, so we won't work into these side stitches here. And for the first row repeat, we start off with a double crochet, so go ahead and yarn over. We're going to go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2, which will be over top of the purple double crochet, so 1 and 2. We're going to work into that purple strand of yarn, and we'll go ahead and yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. We're going to go back to our 2 rows up, which is right above the double crochet, and we are going to place a simple stitch. Again, yarn over. For the next stitch, we're going to go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2. I'll be working in the purple. I'm going to go ahead and pick up that loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, and then pull through 2. Go 2 rows back up, which is into the pink. I'm going to go ahead and place my simple stitch. So pick up that loop, yarn over, and draw up a loop. One more time, yarn over, go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2. I'm going to pick up that loop. Again, that should be over top of my purple double crochet. Yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull through 2. One more time, 2 rows up. I'm going to place a simple stitch here, yarn over. I'm going to go 2 rows down, so 1 and 2, which I am over top of my double crochet, and pick up that loop, yarn over, draw up a loop, and then pull through 2. Go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end, and then you will do your return pass and your second row repeat, which you'll alternate. You'll start off with a simple stitch and then a double crochet, simple stitch, double crochet. Your double crochet should always be in between the 2 double crochets from the previous row. You will go ahead and continue those 2 row repeats until you have a total of 6 rows for your filled stitch. And there's a few different ways that you can actually count your rows. The easiest way that I have found is to either count diagonally or vertically. So if you're going to count diagonally, then you're going to count each double crochet that you have here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you'll have 6 double crochets counting diagonally. Or if you want to count vertically, you'll have 3, 1, 2, 3 of the pink and 3 of the purple. So 1, 2, and 3. So 3 purple and 3 pink. Or you can also count the sides over here. You just need to be mindful of the 2 that we did changing colors of the simple stitch down here. Now, once you have all 6 of those rows completed, we're going to now do 2 rows of nothing but simple stitch, but changing our colors as well. So we will be mimicking what we did down here. So I've already gotten 2 rows of my simple stitches, so 1 and 2. And once you have those 2 rows completed, you'll go ahead and cut that strand of yarn, whatever yarn that you did not do the color down here, you'll cut that yarn off. So now we are going to do 2 rows of the full stitch. So again, this first loop on our hook always counts as 1. So we will not go into this gap. We'll skip this stitch and go in between the gap that is between the two stitches. So we'll go into that gap and go ahead and draw up a loop. So again, we'll go into the next gap between the stitches and draw up a loop until you have gone all the way to the end. So again, you'll go in between the 2 stitches here in that gap and draw up a loop. And once you have made it to the end, you'll go into that last gap here, and then you'll go into that chain 1 of the return pass, draw up a loop, and now we are going to chain 1, so yarn over, pull through 1, and then do your return pass by pulling through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 until you have 1 loop left on your hook. And once you have made it to 1 loop left, we're going to do another row of the full stitch. So again, this loop counts as 1. We'll go in between those 2 stitches and go ahead and draw up a loop. Go to the next gap, draw up a loop, and go ahead and continue repeating that until you have made it to the end. So what we're doing up here is mimicking exactly what we did at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row off real quick. Again, my last stitch is going to be into that gap. Again, my last stitch is going to be in the chain 1 space of the return pass. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and draw up a loop. And now we need to do our return pass. So go ahead and chain 1 and then pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2 and pull through 2 all the way until there's 1 loop left on your hook. And after this row, we'll go ahead and bind off. We're going to go ahead and work in pattern and bind off. So of course, just like throughout, this first loop counts as a stitch. So we're going to go into the next stitch. We're going to go ahead and draw up a loop, and once you have drawn up that loop, we're going to go ahead and pull that loop through that first loop that was on our hook. So again, we're going to continue working in pattern. We're going to go into the next gap, yarn over, draw up a loop, and we are going to pull that loop through that first loop on our hook. So if you are very familiar with crocheting terms, all we're doing here is working in pattern but making a slip stitch. So go ahead and yarn over, draw up a loop, and pull that loop into that very first stitch. Again, work in pattern, so we're going to go into that gap, draw up a loop, and pull that loop through the first loop on our hook. So go ahead and continue doing that once you have binded off each stitch. And that last stitch is going to be into that chain 1 of our return pass. And once you have binded off these stitches here, you'll go ahead and take your ends and you will go ahead and connect those two together. I flipped mine on the back side, and you can either weave your ends or you can make a slip stitch here. So here is my example. I flipped it on the back side of the work and I just slip stitched my 2 ends together. That is the end of this tutorial for the Filled Full of Flowers cowl. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please don't forget to give this video a like, share, comment, or subscribe. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me or ask down in the comment sections. I will see you for the next tutorial.